Hey everyone, Dr. Frunke here with an awesome new knife consult for you today on the VDK GOAT. If you go back on my channel, I've done quite a number of reviews on the VDK series. I did one on the Pharaoh, the War Admiral. Very recently I did a video on the Impaler. This is a new line of offering from VDK Knives. VDK Knives being from Vlad Domozhirov. I hope I'm saying your name right. I think I messed it up in the last bunch of videos, but Vlad is a really cool guy who has started his own line of knives, and basically he just makes the knives that he wants to make. The inspiration for the GOAT here was that he did not see a good Hawksbill blade on the market, and he thought that he could bring that to the market with a very unique design. He's also now making this sort of a budget series of knives. So most of the knives that he has cost between about $300 and $400, somewhere like that. These both cost $125. So for either one of these knives, $125. So that's a nice budget offering. I should also mention that these knives are built by We Knives. Like the rest of the VDK series, he goes to the Chinese company We to have them build knives. But that's actually a really good thing because We has a very high level of quality, fit, and finish, and so we know that we're going to be getting a good product. So let's go ahead and delve into these knives, figure out what we're looking at, and see what we think. So we have two different sizes here. Let's go ahead and get some vital signs on each of these guys. On the big guy right here, you're looking at 3.75 inches of blade. You're looking at about 9 inches of overall length. You're looking at a 5-inch handle with about 4.4 inches of grip space right there. So it's a bigger knife. Right here on the small guy, you've got 3 inches of blade length. You've got about 2.8 inches of cutting length and about 7 inches overall. So 2 inches smaller on the small guy right here. And I don't know if they have real names like a GOAT and a mini GOAT. I think they're just both called the GOAT. I'm going to go ahead and bring out another couple of knives for a good size comparison here. And I think that this is a very relevant size comparison where you have the Spyderco Paramilitary 2 and the Para 3. So realistically, these knives are very much fitting into this size profile. The big guy is slightly bigger than the Para 2, and the small guy slightly smaller than the Para 3. So, but you're going to sort of know what these sizes are if you have either of these knives or if you're familiar with them. So moving right along, let's go ahead and break these knives down anatomically. I'm going to bring up the little guy because he's a little bit easier to feature on the camera. Up front is this Hawksbill blade done in D2 steel, and that is denoted here on the back along with a serial number. This is going to probably be Chinese D2 steel and not American D2, and that's fine. D2 is a good budget steel. It holds a nice edge. It's easy to sharpen. It is a little bit prone to corrosion, but what they've done to circumvent that is put a little bit of a DLC coating on there. The DLC has then been distressed, so it's got a nice user finish. When I first saw the blade, I wasn't sure if it was dirty or if it was the finish, but it turns out this is just the finish. So it's a nice user finish. You don't have to be afraid of using it. What I find that these blades are ideal for are draw cuts. You can hold the knife very comfortably like this, get your finger up on the blade, and draw it across. If you are a person that needs to be opening boxes, cutting tape, even cutting, brush or plants or something, this might be a great knife for you because it's got a good draw cut. It's going to have a nice sort of slashing cut like this, so it's going to work really well. That's the real benefit of the Hawksbill blade shape, is the draw cuts and then the sort of the slicing cuts like that specifically. It's not going to be ideal for all EDC tasks. It may not be the best thing for food prep, although you could use it for that. It's sort of a specialized tool. But what I've noticed is that Vlad really doesn't care in the sense that he makes what he wants to make. He does care that it's a quality product and that it's designed well. Please don't misunderstand that. But what I mean to say is he makes all these specialty knives. The Pharaoh, the War Admiral, the Impaler, all of his knives are very unique in the knife world. And that's really nice that he's able to create these very fresh products all the time. Moving back to the pivot here, this runs on a stainless steel caged ball bearing system, and it is quite smooth. In typical Wii fashion, they've tuned the detent to be very, very nice, and it flies out of the handle. There are multiple opening mechanisms because of the opening hole here. You can very easily spider flick the knife. Obviously, you can flip the knife, and you can use your thumb if you are so inclined. Obviously, that carries with it all the other opening mechanisms, two-handed, Spidey drops, etc., etc. So very versatile opening mechanisms and very reliable. Nice snappy detent and a nice smooth ball bearing action that will get even better over time. Obviously, the bigger knife with the heavier blade is a bit smoother right out of the box. These are fresh knives. And I should qualify this by saying that Vlad sent me these knives for review, but I'm not allowing that to really affect my overall objectivity on the situation. But the knives have a nice action, so you don't have to worry about that in the least. Really, really nice action. It also has some nice pivot hardware. Both of these knives sport this sort of black finish DLC coated hardware, and I really like that. It's stylish, but it's also subtle. Moving back to the handles, these are stainless steel liners with G10 overlays right here, G10 scales. This one is in black, this one is sort of a desert tan. Both of them come with this rather aggressive checkered pattern right here. While I do think that this is excellent for grip and for traction, what it does provide is a bit of a problem. This is something that we see on some knives where the traction is a bit too much, especially right where the pocket clip contacts the scale. Some companies who've been doing this for a long time, like Spyderco on this 100 pacer right here, have figured that out, and they mill a small, or they put a small area of contact underneath the clip so that it slides in and out of the pocket very easily. Add to that these spring clips right here are made of steel and they are very stiff. This small one is unbelievably stiff. You can bend that. That is not a permanent problem. You can bend this. I did address this with Vlad, and he said over time they will relax. I think that you could just bend this quite easily and release that tension. This one came unbelievably stiff. I think once that's fixed, it would be okay, because the big one here works really well. The big one has a bit less spring or a bit less tension on it, and it actually works quite well in and out of the pocket. The handles. Let's talk about the ergonomics here a little bit. And this is sort of a strange situation where I actually prefer the smaller version to the larger version. And I say that because when I put the small one in my hand, now I have rather large hands, but look how my fingers fit onto this. One finger goes here, two fingers here, and then there's this little part right here at the butt where my pinky finger really sits right on it. And so it gives you this pseudo four-finger grip that feels really nice. And I do have a very secure grip on the knife. I'm not going to let it go. It feels good. The larger knife, this doesn't really translate in quite the same way. What I find is that my first finger goes here, these two fingers go here, and then my pinky sits in an awkward position. So it doesn't quite reach over there. And mind you, I have large hands. So if your hands are bigger than mine, maybe this will be okay for you. This is a very subjective thing. If you have smaller hands, it might feel better. But my three fingers don't perfectly fit there comfortably without having to, it just doesn't fit quite the same way. That's a very subjective thing. It's like a pair of shoes. I think that the handle is ergonomic. There's certainly not really a hot spot going on there, but my hand doesn't really, my middle finger wants to sort of be on top of this bump right here while these are here. It's just not quite as perfect as it is on this smaller version. This is really, really nice. If I was going to recommend purchasing one, I might actually say go for the smaller one, which is an unusual recommendation, but this would work really, really nicely as an everyday cutting tool. If you need to do draw cuts, if you're opening boxes all day long, if you're cutting, plastic zip ties, if you're working out in a field somewhere and you need to cut things off of a plant, this would be a really nice knife for all of those functions. I think that it's going to be beautiful in that regard. The big one will just be a bigger version of it, but again, because of the ergonomics, it's just not really my favorite. I think if it was a hair bigger or even a hair smaller, it might have worked better for my particular hand. But different hands work differently on these handles. That's a very subjective thing. What I will say is that the back is finished really nicely. This G10 backspacer fits flush on both of these knives. Incredible fit and finish and quality on these two guys. So basically, I really like the GOAT. Honestly, it is a good effort. I really like the small one. If you're looking for a Hawksbill blade, finally there is an affordable quality option out there on the market for you, thanks to Vlad. I wanted to say thank you to Vlad for sending these knives along. He knew that I was going to be honest with my reviews, and I think that I gave some good critical points here and there. If you're in the market for a Hawksbill blade, look no further than the VDK GOAT right here. Let me know what you guys think of these knives down in the comments below. Go ahead and click like and subscribe to my channel. Go over to Instagram and follow me at Dr. Frunky. Follow Vlad at vdk.co over there on Instagram. And as always, guys, take care.